Hello and welcome. I'm your host, author Ryan M. Oliver, and this is the Mighty Books Podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Mighty Books Podcast. Today with me, I have featured author Brian Rudolph. Brian, how are you doing this fine day?
I'm doing great, Ryan. Thank you. How are you?
I am so good right now, enjoying the cool-ish, calm, not rainy weather. So I'll enjoy that for now. You're in Florida, yes?
I am, and we actually, of course, I'm welcoming the cooler weather. We're getting, they say, a cold spell of like 60 degrees. It's when the Floridians break out the flip-flops with socks. It doesn't
Washingtonians,
bother me though. I love it.
yeah, Washingtonians, it's kind of a staple, stocks and sandals, pretty much until it gets about 30 degrees. So yeah, it's always it's just so cold and wet here most of the time. It's terrible. But that's why it's so beautiful during the summertime.
I
But
bet.
anyway, yeah, anyway,
That's awesome.
yeah, it is. I love Florida. It's so nice down there too. But we're here to talk about your book and all your fabulous adventures. You've got a couple cool things to talk about. But what's the title of your book?
The title of my book is Angel in the Breeze.
And what is The Angel in the Breeze about?
Well, it's a fictionary novel. It was inspired by my mother, who passed away about 3 years ago, suddenly. And coming from a musical family, I've always loved, writing, a lot of poetry, things like that. But after she passed, I was inspired to write songs to cope with my grief.
Right.
And it's definitely a journey, with grief. It comes in waves, and it's different for everybody. Um, and so after she passed, we went up probably 2 days after, which was obviously a really bad time, but it's one of those moments where, you have to do it. It's never going to be easy if you go up a week later, the next day, what have you. And so we went up, and it was a very quick trip. I have an older brother and a younger sister. And, I got a few things, what I could. And a week later, she and her husband went back because there was some furniture that they wanted. And so she came, fast forward, she came to visit me about a month later. And she said, Brian, I think you should have these. And she opened up her suitcase and she pulled out some wind chimes. And it was it just took my breath away because, well, number one, I didn't see them. They were on her back porch hanging. And obviously, to that day, I was in like a tunnel.
Uh-huh.
When you walk in and you see your mom's slippers on the floor, it was like she was going down to the grocery store and she'll be right back,
Oh
that
yeah.
sort of thing. So when she pulled out the wind chimes, I said, I have to have these because a little backstory for her celebration of life. We planned something, but at the house, I decided to do a butterfly release,
Mhm.
which I'd never done before. I contacted one of those companies, and they sent the live butterflies to the house. And so we did that. But when she showed me the wind chimes, they actually had butterflies on them.
Oh, cool.
So I was like, I need to have these wind chimes. And there was a perfect spot, and we're in Florida. So I have them hanging up by our pool on the lanai. And just sitting out there every day, listening to them, I always felt my mom's presence.
Right.
And there was always a different tune and, depending on the wind. And it really brought comfort. And so that inspired the first song that I wrote, which I called Angel in the Breeze, which inspired the title for the novel. And, that song was just about sitting outside, the wind chimes start to ring and the melody, I hear your voice softly sing, what I shared with you prior. And then subsequently, another song came to mind based on advice that she gave me. I called that Grateful. I would talk to my mom every day. And she would always tell me on our phone calls, "What are you grateful for today?"
Mm,
Brian, there's always something to be grateful for, and so I wrote a song called Grateful,
nice.
which I put that in the novel as well. And then Contagious came to mind, which was the song that I shared with you. That's sort of the anthem for the novel, which I
Mhm.
can't wait for readers to dive in because I'm anxious to get feedback because these are just lyrics.
Right.
And I'd love feedback from people to say, God, I wonder what these would sound like with music, which, and because, that's my specialty is I am more of a writer. And coming from a musical family, I have played an instrument, but I don't write music.
Oh, okay.
But Contagious came to mind because of the pandemic, the circumstances around which my mom passed, and the lyrics just flowed when I started writing because I thought of, that was such a terrible time in so many ways for, so many people in different ways. And I just thought, gosh, instead of a virus being contagious, why can't love and kindness and just those, pay it forward, those good things, why can't we just have that go viral and that be contagious? And so obviously that song is in the novel, and it just kind of grew from there. I thought, I have this idea for a story,
Mhm.
and I really, because it's about a mother and a son's relationship, I really wanted to incorporate those three songs at the time. I've written four more, which are in the novel.
Oh, cool.
But I really it was important that I wrote the story so that the songs could fit in and also help tell the story of the relationship between this mother and son.
Yeah.
And again, it's fiction, but it's inspired, by my mom. She wasn't a traveling singer by any means. She was actually more a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
That was her first job, which she loved. It was important for me to just tell that story and share her love for music and again it's between a mother and a son and with Angel in the Breeze it was a story of them growing up on the road together
Oh,
and
okay.
the people that they meet, circumstances that happen to them both good and bad, and then there's also tragedy.
Well,
He does lose his mother. It's about resilience and him navigating through his grief
mm,
and just being able to come out on the other side. It's grief is something that it's different for everybody,
that's true.
and you're not broken when you're grieving by any means. That's what I've learned and what I tell people going through grief. You're healing, and that takes time. Obviously, you're always going to feel like you're in a vast ocean, and the waves come, or the ocean might pull you down, but you're always going to come up for air.
Right.
And that's how I felt during my grief. But one of the quotes that always came to mind for me as I was writing this was what they say when you're happy you enjoy the music, but when you're sad you understand the lyrics.
I've heard that before. Yeah.
Yeah, and that just resonated with me, and it was important for me as I was incorporating these songs into the story, not only the ones I had originally written before the story, but as I was writing it was just important for me to say, you know what, I want to get these lyrics right because this happened in the story, and as a result, this song happens.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make sure that I structured it in a way that it just flows and it makes sense, and but also helps the lyrics help me tell the story.
That's cool.
Um,
Using music and a story to tell a deeper story.
right,
Yeah.
right. Because I was with that quote, obviously I was sad when I wrote the
Oh,
lyrics,
yeah.
so.
Hey everyone, thank you for making it this far into the interview. Hope you're loving it. I just wanted to take a quick moment to tell you about a gift for you all, a free book just waiting to be read. Just visit ryanmoliver.com and hit the button to receive a free book. It's that easy. Also, consider signing up for the newsletter. where each month you'll receive more fun reading to enjoy. That's RyanMOliver.com. RyanMOliver.com. Are you going to have, so you have 7 songs, 7 or 8 songs?
I think I have seven. Yeah, I think it's seven
Okay, okay. Are you
throughout the
gonna
novel.
are you gonna try that's basically almost an album. I don't know how long an album has to be, but
Yeah.
I mean, are there like links or something or like QR codes or something they could go and listen to the music and everything inside the book?
Yeah, no, I mean, that would be a great idea. I mean, especially if one day it became an audiobook.
Oh, I think it
So
should. I think that
if
would be
you could
so
do
cool.
that,
That
yeah, it's something that I hadn't thought about, but because I certainly have a son that is, he took the lyrics that I
yeah,
wrote
that
to
was really cool.
Contagious. Yeah, and that was just amazing because Cameron is, he loves music. He actually wants to go to school for it,
Very cool.
and he plays piano and violin. When he saw the lyrics for Contagious, he was like, "Dad, do you mind if I make a song into this?" And I was like, "Son, absolutely." And he's got the whole setup with the MIDI keyboard and the microphone. He could do his own podcasting too with his setup.
Probably, yeah.
You
Probably
know,
a lot more technical than what I do, but yeah, that sounds. Well, with music too, you can definitely tell a difference with someone who knows what they're doing with audio versus someone who's more of a novice. So I mean, he's already got that baseline technical skills. And
yeah,
from what you sent me, because you guys don't know, but he sent me the actual finished song and it with his son on it, and it was sounded really nice and really great. So if you do get the book, you can listen to the song, which is pretty awesome.
yeah, and he took it so far as to, on his own, at 14, he published it on Spotify, iHeartRadio.
Sweet.
It's on YouTube, the single, and Pandora. I mean, he did all of that on his own. And when I heard it, I was like, you have such a gift.
Mm,
And what I love about that is, like we have my grandfather's 97, he'll be 98 in May. He, being the patriarch, he is the musical like he has the legacy. He's, out there gigging, still plays trumpet. He volunteers at, like, friendship centers,
very
senior
cool.
citizen centers, and he's still going. And it's because of the music,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is amazing. And so he has inspired not only others in my family, because I do have family members that are music teachers or, things like that. And the fact that he really wants to, that the torch is being passed to him in that way, I'm just so excited to see where he goes with it because he's taken songs and rearranged them, and I mean, that's the talent that he has. I wish I had that talent, but I'm just the writer.
Well, I mean, if you've seen a lot of, great songs, a lot of it is people who write the lyrics and that's who actually compose it. So it kind of takes the duality, that kind of synchronicity to make something like that. I mean, I have no idea how you even tackle making a song. Like, I have no idea. I was not very musically inclined. I played a little bit in high school, but and like I would forget all the melody and everything really, really fast. Like I just played it. Yeah, I forgot it. I don't know what to do. So the fact that your whole family has some kind of a musical talent is something to really to cherish, and you can add that with your book. I mean, that sounds pretty awesome to me. I'm really curious to see what a full-length audiobook would sound like with having the music
Yeah,
a component thrown
right,
there. Be
right.
really cool. Be
Because
really
that was
cool.
one thing you obviously, as the author, a published author, we want our work to be well received.
Yes.
And I'm looking forward to feedback because as they're reading the novel and then, oh, here's a song, you're reading the lyrics, and I'm hoping that the lyrics themselves, I think, are moving. And
Hmm.
I hope that as someone else reading it, that they'll be moved by the lyrics,
Yeah.
because I mean, what they say, what that music actually connects us to our emotions or a memory.
Oh,
And and I would love to do that for someone too, as a writer, if I had the gift of being able to put my lyrics to music. you
yeah.
know
Well, I mean, you got your son to help you with that, which is a
yeah,
really cool thing.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
I'm a musical theater person myself. I've actually done shows with my kids through the
Oh, cool.
years.
That's awesome.
And it's that's something that I thought, maybe Cameron and I one day will write a musical together. I'll write the script and then turn over the music, and he can compose the rest.
That'd be cool. Yeah, that'd be cool. You can all intertwine it. I mean, really, it's just how you present your material, and you can kind of piece it out. And then, I mean, also, it's a little more on the, I guess, the fiscal side of things. If you have it in many different versions, how people can consume it, there's a higher probability that they will actually, uh, you know, actually read or listen to or watch what you guys have created. If you have it in all forms, audio, ebook, print, music, a play or something, short film, hell, even a short film. Short films are becoming such a huge thing. I've talked to so many folks who write things in screenplays and compose all sorts of crazy, wonderful videos and
Yeah.
films. And it's really it's quite a thing. Put it into showcases and all sorts of stuff. You have
Right.
there's the limit is just beyond by your imagination. It's pretty cool. So I mean, you have a
Sure.
lot to play with. You have a
I
lot to
have
play with.
a friend in Sarasota that I've done. We starred in The King and I together
Oh, okay.
as she was Anna and I was the King. It was back in 2011. She actually is a working actress. She might even be in Equity, but I follow. We haven't seen each other in a while, but she pursues that, and she comes from a musical family as well. We have a lot in common, and I actually told her about the book, and she'd probably be somebody that I would love to collaborate with because
Yeah.
she has written what you had mentioned, a short film.
There you go.
Not only did she pull the resources locally in Sarasota together, made it very low budget, but it was screened at the Sarasota Film Festival, and it was really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's a writer, and with her talents, her parents are composers, so there's a lot of different. I need to really, if I want to take this further, which I hope to, is tap into the community
Yes.
locally, and just really engage with other artists and say, here's a story that I have, and what do you think? How could you add to it, make it better, and take it to the next level, make it into a screenplay?
Hmm. Well, and also something I've talked to a couple folks about is like just think of films in general, movies in the last, let's just say 10 to 15 years. They've gone away from the core story because I talked to a lot of folks who are really hyper focused on the story, and you should be. The story is what's really important. Films are, in my kind of going sideways where they're using too much CGI is where they're living. They lose
Mm,
the realistic, the actual like essence, the soul of a story, just to the pure action of something or just to the whatever, the cheap thrill. So having something that's very much centered around the people and only the people, don't worry about the budget. Like when you think of older movies, those movies, yeah, some of the effects are cheesy, but the story was fantastic. So if you have good actors, if you have good story, good writing, you've got lyrics, music to go on top of it, and oh my God, people will flock to it. Especially, it might be a little older community. You might not get like the young community,
mhm.
but I mean, there's a market for everything, and it sounds like this would be right in that niche where people really want and yearn for those good, wholesome stories to connect to that might make them probably cry a little bit, but that's okay.
Yeah,
Maybe laugh a bit
I'm
too.
hoping the story will move people, and
Yeah,
my reason for writing it was obviously to, in honor of my mother.
absolutely.
She's on the dedication page in the beginning, and but yeah, I sprinkled little bits and pieces of her in my main character, in the mother.
Of course.
Well, how she smelled to her son. He smelled lavender, and that's
Mhm.
what was the scent that he always came about. And her hands were calloused from playing guitar all those years, which was my mother. Her hair being chestnut brown. So there were little nods. There's little nods to her in the story. More importantly, it's just the theme of how close this mother and Liam. is my character, and Serena is his mother. And it starts out in the beginning where they're young and she's touring, and I introduced the wind chimes in the very beginning because you see throughout the story his connection to them and
Uh,
why he's fascinated by them. Well, they were one of the first gifts that his mother had given to him. And because their life was so in such transition, home was wherever the tour van was, sort of thing. The wind chimes followed. And so they are actually a character of themselves in the book, and I mentioned them throughout the entire story. That's where the wind chimes come into play, and
yeah.
then obviously at the end, where it's a
Yeah.
happy ending
Yeah. Yeah.
for
Right.
all, but the nod to the wind chimes, because that's his. He mentions that that's his mother and his angel in the breeze.
Hmm.
So
That's really neat. How long did it take you to finish the first? I guess how long did it take you to finish the book? How long did it take you to finish the book?
probably would say a year and a half.
Okay.
Maybe it was something, in between. I would have the idea for this chapter or this section, and I'd write everything down, put notes in my phone.
Yep.
And there'd be times when I'd be sitting at the airport, waiting for my flight, and I'm like, oh, I got an idea,
Right.
and I would put that write it down, put it in the notes section of my phone, and a lot of it for a while was just bits and pieces, and then I thought, I really want to dedicate some time on the weekend or here or there where I can just sit down and just make it, collectively just flow and cohesive. And then of course you have those moments where you go, I wrote this, but I actually now I think I want to change that.
I do know how that goes a little too well, a little too, and it's so cool to see more people coming out of the woodwork and writing more because you work full time
Hmm.
and you've got a family, and it's I can relate so well because it's just such a it can be very frustrating when you want to get just right and right, but you have other responsibilities. So, but did you have to plan for writing every day, or was it just kind of like you finally found yourself with a free moment and you just jumped and started writing?
It's funny, yes and no. I started the planning where I would segment and say, okay, when I shut down my computer for work, I'm going to spend an hour
Yeah.
because I'm in my office. I'm going to plant myself in my office, and just put the different hat on.
Yes.
And then things, happen. And I was just like, that my whole schedule that is just gone. The routine that I had going was,
It's what's that phrase like the plans of mice and men or something like that. I can't remember, but it's or the gods will
best
laugh at
laid
your plans.
plans.
Yeah, what was that? Best laid plans, something like that of mice and
Yep.
men. I might be confusing two things. I don't know, or I feel like yeah. Anyway, I know I have the same problem of I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna have this
Oh,
plan, and
yeah.
it
What
just
is
blows
Yeah.
to hell.
John, is it a John Lennon quote? Life happens when you're busy making other plans or something like that.
Something to that effect, I think. Yeah. I never wrote when I planned to write, and usually it's just because I mean, for the most part, when I would have the time, I didn't feel like it because I don't want to sit at the computer all the time. I need to move. I'm very active, like I have to just get up and do
Yeah.
things. And if
Yep.
I'm on the computer all day for work or I'm teaching all day, I don't want to sit down and have to. I'm not in the proper brain space. I have to decompress, have some free time in my mind to kind of float around a little bit. And then it's like,
Mhm.
oh, I have an idea. That spark kind of pushes you forward. And all of a sudden I'm writing for 4 hours. And it's like feast or famine with me. So I don't know if you've probably lost sleep over your writing time too.
I have, and it's funny that you said that because I do CrossFit, and
Oh, nice.
I enjoy the 5 a.m. Call me crazy,
Oof.
but because life is so busy, I have to work out in the morning, or I won't work out at all.
Sure.
And when I was in that writing phase, I was getting up at 3:30 in the morning to be able to have coffee, relax, get in my okay, I'm about to go to the gym and beat myself up for an hour at 5 a.m. Because then when I come home and you're going through your morning routine, breakfast, whatever, and getting ready, and then you work, 8 or 9 hours a day. And then I had to then, turn that, put the other hat on and become the writer. And sometimes it was hard to be inspired.
Yes.
I mean, and in the oddest of places, or when you mentioned waking up in the middle of the night, an idea for a song would come into my head at like two
Yeah.
in the morning.
So weird.
And I'd
So
be like,
weird.
"Oh my gosh, I hope I remember that." When I wake up, so that I should just get up and write it down.
That's what I end up having to do. It's never right in the middle of the night. It's always right when I am settling down for bed. Like I've just put the lights are out, the house is secured, everyone's asleep. I'm always the last one to go to bed. And so I go to lay down. Ah, time for an idea. Son of a gun. Okay, so now I have to get up, grab my notepad, write down what I need until my I'm finally sufficient of that's enough details. I will
Yeah,
remember the rest for the morning, and then I can go to sleep.
yeah,
Otherwise, I'm sitting there stirring for 20, 30, a minute,
right.
an hour until I finally get up.
Yeah, yeah. And what happened to me too during my writing journey with Angel in the Breeze was, mom died very young at 66.
Oh,
And my dad wasn't much older. They had us when we were very, very young. And so we grew up with our parents. I mean, they were parents at 16 years old.
oh wow.
And so I was on a trip and I got an email from my brother that our dad had passed away.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, I didn't have a relationship with my dad, and it's a very long story. But he had actually disowned, me a while back, and we had a very, let's just say, we had a very rocky relationship.
Sure.
And so when that happened, I because in the story I always had an idea because I write that I mentioned that he doesn't have a father in the story. Let's just say that because I don't want to give too much away.
Sure.
And so what happened with my father and my own experience, I got the idea to incorporate a little bit of that into the novel.
Yeah.
And it was interesting just to see if I had another chance to talk to my father or, how that would play out. And that personal experience for me kind of found its way into the story.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I hope the readers will enjoy it. You
I
know,
think, yeah, I think that adding that element too would also shore up like how close you and the character and the mother's character are to each other as well. So I think that
right?
really is probably a good creative and realistic play you did or ploy you did to get
Yeah.
to help the readers understand that how close they were together. And then it's really cool that what drove you to have them be on the road together? Is because your mom was a guitarist?
Yeah, she was a guitarist, and she actually had the opportunity. I think right after my brother was born
Yeah.
to go on tour,
Oh, cool.
and I think it was I don't want to misspeak or anything. It was a famous band at the time in the 70s, but she turned it down.
Wow.
She chose to be a mother,
Wow.
and she never had any regrets. But she continued her music career through. We were a military family, so the being on the road. That's how with our family we practically moved every 4 years,
Yeah.
and so wherever my mom went, she plugged in music. I remember we were actually stationed at MacDill in Florida, but years ago, and there was the houses. We were all on a circle, and everybody's garage was or had garages in the middle of the circle, and you could park your car or storage, whatever. She went out there and she heard a band playing, and the next thing you know, it was just a bunch of guys, and they called themselves Base Haircut, and they were just a bunch of military soldiers. And here comes my mom. She's like, "Wow, I really, like what you guys are doing. You mind if I sit in?" And she just jumped right on in, and she impressed the heck out of them. And the next thing you know, they being a military base, they would have talent shows
Yeah.
where mostly military men and women would perform. But my mom actually came in one day and she said, I know I'm the spouse. She kind of broke the mold and she was like, I know I'm not military, but I'm a spouse. She goes, can I join your talent competition? They heard her sing and they let her right in.
Yeah.
And it was just amazing. And one of the I live in Venice, Florida now, and mentioning her and how she would just connect to the community wherever she was. One of the things and the great memories we have is karaoke.
Oh, jeez.
And we loved doing karaoke. This was before she lived, and she died unfortunately in Delaware. But when she lived in Florida, close by, we ended up going to karaoke. And one of the first songs she sang right out of the gate was Barracuda.
Yeah.
And I mean, being, a rock and roll singer,
Yeah.
like after she sang that song, nobody would go after her because they didn't want to follow her. And it was incredible. And one of her other songs she would sing really well was "Sweet Child of Mine." So
Nice.
whenever we did karaoke and I was with her, she would always do that and dedicate that song to me.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
So we just have I just have a lot of great memories of her, her singing, and
That's
that
excellent.
that was just one of the reasons why I said I really want to write this story and have it exemplify just the relationship, any relationship, whether it's a father daughter or mother son, but just I wanted it to emulate, the closeness of our relationship, and then these two characters,
Yeah.
Liam and Serena, and just yeah, their journey and obstacles that they overcame, and
Yeah.
but also the lessons that they learned, not only from each other, but through other people as they encountered, through their journey on the road together.
Right. I'd be really curious once, because when does the book come out?
I'm thinking probably mid to late March at
Okay.
this point.
Okay. So this will air around early to mid May or April. So I'm really curious when it comes out, the feedback you get. I'd be really cool. It'd be really cool to see them like actually message you directly and just have them tell you how it impacted them. That'd be really neat if you over 6 months or a year after it's released. It'd be really
Mhm.
cool to see what if they email you directly like this was great. This helped me cope with, the loss of whomever, because it can grief is a universal feeling everyone goes through at least a few times in their life. So it'd be really cool to see that engagement with your readers. Do you plan on doing any kind of like connecting with readers, like doing newsletters or anything like that for marketing? I know we were talking marketing a little bit.
Yeah, I do. I actually have a friend that is a host of a local radio station.
Oh, cool.
So I told her, I said, I will be happy to give you a free copy of my book and I would love your feedback.
Yeah,
I'm hoping she loves it enough to invite me on the show
that'd be cool.
to
That'd be
talk
cool.
about it, but I'm definitely going to share it with her. But just there's just yeah, there's a lot of people locally that I want to connect with. There obviously my theater community here in Venice and Sarasota as well. They're all excited for the book to come out, and my coworkers as well. And then you have family, and they'll support you no matter what. But yeah, no, I'm more interested in engaging with the community. I know as far as like book signings and things, what the publication assistant tells me is, well, what we do is we try to have you promote it locally,
Yeah.
and by doing so, go to your Barnes and Nobles or a local bookstore because they can order the copies in advance that you're going to need for your book signing,
Yeah.
and just share with them your journey. You're a new author, and
Yep.
you never know. I mean, there could.
Yeah. There's a lot of venues you can use too. I've heard don't use Barnes and Noble because they'll actually like take a cut from what you make, and yeah, that stuff they'll actually it's
Oh,
very business like, which I mean, of course it is kind of a business thing, but if you go to like local mom and pop shops, maybe places that even not even a venue that does sell books normally, or you can collaborate with some people. I don't know. Maybe you can have a place where your son can do some music stuff, which is, correlates right with the book anyway, which would be really neat. That
Yeah.
might be a really good idea. I don't know what venues you guys have out there, but making it more personalized. And I feel like a local like mom and pop bookshop, if you got a bunch out there, we've
Hmm.
got a bunch out here. They're not huge, but certain spots you could rent out, or maybe they even will donate a couple hours to you or something.
Yeah,
Who knows? It's just about talking to people and seeing what you can
absolutely.
come up with. And I mean,
Yeah, I
I've heard
love
great
that.
success. I've heard of
Being
great
able
success.
to, I would love that to be able to, connect with
Mhm.
people and attend, writers conferences
There's a lot.
just yeah, I definitely have a lot of research that I want to do because that's important for me. Is I I want to hear from readers too. Of reading is a what do you take away when we all read for a reason to escape or to educate ourselves if it's a self-help book or
Right.
there's many different kinds of books out there and I just want to, move people with my writing and just spread joy and kindness. And the message in the book is, pay it forward,
Yeah.
and that's just, I think, the message, the takeaway from this book that I'd like readers to have.
Yeah.
It's just to inspire, lift anybody up, either
Mhm.
whether you're going through grief or just a challenging time in your life. To just know, I mean, we all have cracks in us for because of the experiences we go through in life, whether it's losing a loved one or you lost your job or you went through a divorce or a relationship, whatever. And the thing with cracks is it allows the light to get in, and that's in the light, I think, is where we can all like share our human experiences and just help lift one another up.
Yeah.
So I that's why I put contagious at the end of the novel, because at that point Liam has gone full circle, and I write in there when he's in the studio recording this song what he's thinking. He's thinking about his path and this person he met and this person that he helped or this person that helped him.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a full circle moment for him too.
Yeah.
Um,
It sounds like the book's also got a lot of like appreciate or gratitude. So making lessons
yeah.
on gratitude. So and appreciation and not taking things for granted because eventually everything comes to an end. It's just
Hmm.
that's how life is. So trying to, like as you're expressing and telling me all the stories about your mother and the cool things that you guys did together and the fun experiences, like you'll have that forever. So making sure that you appreciate that through your life with the people you love, it's going to help you as you get older and people unfortunately start to leave us,
Yeah.
leave this mortal toil, as they say. We can enjoy at least those memories and share that because as long as you're expressing those stories and you're telling those stories, that person's still living with you. So that's a beautiful thing to express too.
Absolutely. You just hit the nail on the head because I watched an interview with Andrew Garfield, and he
Mhm.
talked about losing his mother.
Oh
And he
yeah.
shared such a beautiful story about his grief. And he said, and most people, I didn't think of it this way. He was like, grief is a gift because you're actually still being able to express love for that person, even though they're not here, and we shouldn't bottle it up. It needs to be expressed and shared with anyone that's around you.
Right. Right.
And it just was a beautiful testament, and it resonated with me for sure.
Yeah.
That you can find beauty in something as ugly as grief.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've heard something similar what he says. Like grief is like with it's love with nowhere to go. That's basically what it is. The love for that person, you can't give them the love because they're not here anymore. So it comes out in different ways, and it's usually not the
Yes.
most comfortable of ways. But you learn to you never they say, oh, get over it. They never get over it. You just accept it, and it becomes just a part of and your life moves on. But then, like you said, it comes in waves. I mean, people. I've known passed away many many years ago, decades ago, and still get by myself getting teary eyed over hearing mostly from music that comes out. Memory hits. It's like, oh darn it, no, it hits you, and you're like, okay, take 5 minutes, appreciate that memory. All right, let's
Yeah.
go throughout the day. Now let's go grocery shopping or go to work or something. And it just becomes a part of your life, and you don't think about it so much. But if you can have time to reflect on it, I feel like it makes you a more appreciative and grateful person. So for
Hmm.
all the relationships you have.
Yeah, it's about legacy, and I want to leave footprints behind,
Mm-hmm.
especially for my kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that my mom did that for me, and I'm so thrilled that I get to honor her in this way, by putting something out there into the world.
Yep.
And it's great to see even my youngest follow in the footsteps of the musical family and continue that tradition. And whatever path he decides with music, but we actually currently we take piano lessons together.
Nice.
He had always played piano. My aunt is our piano teacher, and Cameron was, he had started with her about 8 years ago when he was like 4 years old, 5 years old. And one day at a lesson, she said to me, she said, Brian, a former student of mine has this grand piano. They're moving away. They can't take it with them. Would you like it? And I said, well, absolutely. Well, she goes, why don't you go look at it first? And so we had a piano tuner guy come, and the owner was totally fine with it being inspected because it's an older piano.
Sure.
And so it was great to be able to inherit this piano, because I thought, well, man, I have a piano in the house now, and when the kids aren't with me, I need to learn how to tickle those ivories. And so I started taking piano lessons instead of going there and sitting and watching him.
Yeah,
I am now doing it myself with him.
that's cool.
So that's kind of our thing together, and the bond that we have through music is connected. We share that common thread, and it's great. And I have a picture of, obviously, I put a picture of my mother on the piano, and I love it because, especially, well, when I play as well, she's watching me, but I especially love when to see Cameron in front of the piano, because I know that his Grant is watching him,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
and how proud that she always bragged on all three of her grandchildren, even though they're all different, you know.
As they
But
should be. They have their uniqueness. As they have their uniqueness. Well, and
yeah,
I like you said the legacy, and one of my first interviews I had with a person who's, we talked about the very first interview I had with this podcast. She said something that had stuck with me forever. When we leave this earth, we have our legacy is really two things. It's our children and our art. So, and it sounds like you've got the art is in your children a little bit too, which is kind of cool. And so, but and then this testament, this book you've written is also a beautiful thing for your mother too. You've kind of got it all pegged now. You've got your children, you've got the art, you've got remembrance, you've got all this wonderful thing to pass down through the generation. I mean, you're doing some good stuff now, and you're having fun with music and possibly going beyond with like musical theater. Like, geez, you're
yeah.
going all out.
I was in New York recently for. I turned 50 in January, and then we went in February just because it was better for our schedules. And I didn't realize our hotel would be right next door to Carnegie Hall.
Oh, cool.
And they were like, "What do you want to do while we're here?" Well, we were only there for 2 days, and in New York City, you need like a week or something. So
Mhm.
I said, "Well, you know what? I really want a tour of Carnegie Hall."
Yeah.
And just to walk through that theater and see the stage, and then especially at the end where they had the museum of all the musicians, and the history of that theater, 100-year-old theater, and all the people that were there, composers, musicians, dancers. I was so moved by that experience.
Yeah.
And it just, because my grandfather, his father actually, Tony Bruno, was a conductor up in, I want to say Washington. There was a hotel that he would play at frequently, and he could play 8 instruments in addition to conducting.
Jeez.
Well, he actually knew the Rat Pack. And it was incredible because they used to live in Apollo Beach. And when we lived in Florida in that area at the time, and I was much younger, they had a music room.
Yeah.
And of course, we weren't allowed in there because there was a lot of, older things, but a lot of expensive artifacts. And all I remember walking by was seeing this whole wall full of autographed pictures from Sammy Davis Jr. and just the whole Rat Pack, Frank Sinatra.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
was just like, wow, so the family legacy. That's why I'm glad my grandfather's still alive because I always ask him, I said, I want to hear stories.
Hmm.
What, because you're still here with me. I want to hear your stories. Like
Yeah.
I could spend hours with Papa just to hear him talk about his experience growing up and joining the Navy and playing the trumpet, and just how and his father and it just yeah, so legacy has always been important and tradition too for
Tradition.
me.
Yeah. Now, with going forward after this book is well marketed and published and people received it and you're doing all the cool things, do you plan on continuing the writing journey on another project? Do you have any others in the pipeline?
I think so. I mean, I always thought I would be a children's author if I were to publish
Mhm.
anything. And growing up, when the kids were little, we always had unique bedtime experiences. And so I can't remember how it came to be, but they would always say, oh, well, tell us a story.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we would just make up these stories on the fly, and one of them that became popular was the kids at the time loved scooters. So I would say, my middle son Christopher, I'd say, this is Christopher's magic scooter. So then it became, tell us the magic scooter story, and it would
Uh,
always be, you know, um, once upon a time, da 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 da, and he went off on his scooter, and just like that, he was on another planet, or he was here, and I would just make it up on the fly.
sure.
And so I do have in my back pocket some children's stories about. I could probably go and name it Christopher's Magic Scooter or something about a magic scooter, the little boy that had a magic scooter.
Yeah,
But I would want the stories to have the child learn a valuable life lesson
sure.
through each adventure.
Hmm.
And that would kind of be the idea and the common thread if I did something like that. But
Yeah. You
because there's a
could.
lot of stories up there, I need to write them down.
That's finding the time to write them down. It seems to be the biggest fight I have with myself is to find the time to write them down because I want everything done right now,
Yeah,
everything, all the things done right now,
right.
and you
And
just can't.
you can, and that's coming from just great memories when the kids were young. For the kids, when I think about the kids saying, "Dad, tell me a bedtime story," I don't hear that anymore. I
No.
won't probably hear that until I have grandkids.
Yeah.
So that's yeah,
It's something to reminisce a little bit on, and then you can pass those stories on to other families too, which is a really neat treat and a nice gift as well. But I think that would be a really cool, be a fun one to go on to. And heck, you could pick the kids' brains. Do you guys remember that story? What do you remember from that? And it'd be kind of
yeah,
cool to pull details from what they remember and put it into
hmm
the story. You can make that
absolutely,
happen. So
yeah,
I'm pulling from a lot of my kids. My boys are very good at just making stuff up randomly. And I'm like, that would be a good idea. That would be a good idea.
yeah.
And so
Getting
then, yeah. And they're like, well, Dad, you could write that. I'm like, I could. I have a couple in the pipeline that I'm trying to like work on occasionally. And it's just so hard with everything going on. I have to have
mhm.
like a month of just distraction free, which is just not going to happen
No,
to get everything.
absolutely. Which we could only hope for, right?
Oh, I know. And
Yeah,
still get bills paid and the house get cleaned and then, food get cooked and
yeah.
life happen, with everything going on.
Everybody, people ask me, well, what inspires you to write? Like, what do you think about? And I just love thinking about, my experiences with the people that I encounter.
Yeah.
Like even just sitting at the airport and you watch a plane take off, and I always thought, I wonder who's on that plane and where they're going.
Oh, yeah.
And then boom, you can kind of go from there, and that's kind
Yes,
of
yeah.
where I draw inspiration from.
That's actually that is a fun one. I don't know if you did this in school, but we had something where the teacher, we like a writing prompt. It wasn't a writing prompt, it was a visual writing prompt. And they put up a picture and they go, okay, tell me what happens. What's going on in this story? What's going on in this picture? And it was super fun. Some of us would just go crazy and make all these wild things up, and some would be very, very simple or very sweet. But it was so cool to see the differences, what people would come up with for just one image.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
so fun to do that. And it was like they have a couple of books like that with just pictures, black and white pictures.
Yeah, and I can take that just a little step further because we had the same experience in high school in literature class where, and you have the desks all in a row and they did put the image up on the screen and the person in the front row would start writing, and the teacher would all of a sudden say, or there'd be a bell or something, and you had to pass the paper to the person behind you. And then wherever you left off mid sentence or whatever, you had to continue the story and then kept passing. And it was just funny to see the stories that came,
We did
as a result of everybody writing something and interjecting what they.
We did that too. Only a couple teachers did that, but I totally forgot about that one. It was where you have write two sentences or a paragraph next, and or turn to the left, and when it was like there was like
Yes.
seven people in a row, or by the time it got back to you, then you had a whole like 2 pages of written, and you got to write it out and like, oh, this is either terrible or hilarious or great or whatever. But I remember that being pretty fun. That was a fun one. I could probably do something like that with an audience or something. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, that would be
That'd be a
cool.
fun activity actually at like
For
a
sure.
that'd be a fun activity, almost at like a either a writing, like a not a conference, but a workshop or something. Would be
Hmm.
kind of neat, like off the cuff stuff, just to kind of break the ice. Would be really cool. All right, write one sentence that happens. All right, next sentence, next, and we'll have like a funny paragraph or whoever's got the funniest paragraph. I don't know. That'd be you can do all sorts of stuff with that. That'd be really
You
neat.
can. Absolutely. That's amazing.
That'd be really cool. Well, I'm sure people are really curious to where they can get copies of your book. So where can they get copies of It's Angel in the Breeze, yes?
Yes, Angel in the
Okay.
Breeze.
Very
My
cool.
publisher is Fulton Books,
Fulton Books, okay?
and the book should hopefully be out by end of March or early April, I would assume. I'm in the process of working with them on the cover.
Wheat.
And once I approve, because I do have my own portal, and I've loved working with them because I'm in complete control.
That's awesome.
Anything that they put in the portal, I have to go in and sign off on before we move to the next phase. So it's really been a great experience, especially my first experience with a
Yeah.
publisher, to have all that full creative control. And so yeah, I've enjoyed that. And I think once we get through the cover design, and I did send them the idea, and it was important for me for the cover to obviously have the mother and son, and I wanted it to be a silhouette with them, on the road,
Hmm.
obviously, and they're in silhouette. You can see the sun behind them. She's carrying her guitar. They're holding hands and looking at each other.
Yeah.
That's the image that I was thinking. And obviously he's a little boy and he does grow up into a man throughout the novel. So I was wondering, should I change it? But I thought no, because I really want the innocence captured, in that picture, because the relationship is about the mother and son,
Right.
and there is such a childlike innocence there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I hope that that was the right decision. I think it was. I mean, I'm confident, but it's one of those things where you can always spend time second guessing yourself.
Oh
Should I
man.
could have done this on the cover, and I told myself I'm not going to do that.
No, and honestly, for covers and the story, generally your instinct is telling you is pointing you, pushing you in the right direction anyway. And I found too much feedback can almost just haze the picture for you. So go with your gut on your story, your cover. Do what feels right with this stuff because it is coming from you. I mean, really, it is. So do it feels natural and feels right. And I think the rest will take care of itself. And any little small technical details you'll forget about it and just enjoy the project when it's completed. You know what I mean?
Right, right. Great
So
advice. Thank you.
Yeah, Mike, like I had to do that a lot with mine too. So speaking from some experience of a lot of second guessing, you don't want to do that. But anyway, Brian, this has been awesome. So I really appreciate you coming on and chatting with me about your book, your process, your mother, the story. This has been a very, very nice conversation. So thank you.
Thank you. I feel the same. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and thank you for letting me, share my story on this platform.
Absolutely. And then in the future, if you've got more cool updates, like you're doing some neat music stuff with the book, doing some theater stuff with the book, you got another book coming out, I'd love to arrange another meeting to chat about it. So
Yeah, I very much like that myself. Yeah, for sure.
oh, awesome. All right, guys, please go check out Brian Rudolph's book, Angel in the Breeze. It is brand new. It'll be right at this current moment in like, what are we, mid to late February. It's still in the works, but it'll be coming out very, very soon. So go check it out. Hit him up for a maybe a pre-copy. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe a signed copy. That'd be even cooler. So, and go enjoy yourself some fabulous, fabulous literature. I hope you guys really enjoyed this conversation. Have a great rest of your week. And as always, stay mighty and keep reading.